history in our community when it comes to natural resource development. It was our community when it comes to hydro, I guess, development, not forestry or mining, but but hydro, we were the first community to be impacted because we were the first ones to be removed, displaced, and thrown away like a piece of garbage, I guess. We didn't matter to the world, to hydro, or to the Quebec government, or even to the Canadian government. Development was more important then than a group of people. Now they say that against SB, they're the most impacted, but I would say we were the first to be impacted by the James Bay Agreement, the community of Nemaska. And we went through probably one of the harshest of all the communities. When we were removed first from our own site, our own community, and moved to other communities, and what our people had to endure in those communities. So the alcoholism, the violence against our own people, it was too much. I think a lot of us grew up with a lot of anger. Some of us, I guess those of us that went to residential school, those that went to residential school, they had a different type of anger, I guess, coming home and what they experienced in residential school. And then on top of that, another trauma, moved to other communities. There was a lot of anger built in us, I guess. And it was a sad time, most of the time. When we finally moved back to the new site, the new Nemaska, and it's the first time I ever got the chance to see my other relatives. I was back in 1977, and we started off as we pitched up our tents, and back in that time, and this is where Nemaska began. So, so the first 8 years of my life, I used to think my home was Rupert's. This is where I was most happy, and this is where I went home to. The difference back then to today is that the elders were the ones that were always the last decision makers. But I think today, because of all the different impacts, different periods in our history, from contact to everything that happened in between, the assimilation policy, the residential school, the churches, you add everything together, all those things put together interrupted a lot of things in our culture, in our customs. And I think once the people that went to residential school were given the power, the roles to be the leaders, I think that's where a lot of things changed. The mannerisms, the behavior, leaders, the customs, were no longer up front. They were no longer the forefront of how we dealt with things. We did well, I think, in all of our fights, from Gradewell to NBR. I was very proud of my people when I was growing up. I wasn't involved in the Gradewell fight, but I heard about it, and every time I saw our leaders and our people standing up for their rights, standing up for their land and their rivers, that was a very proud time for people like me. I watched it, and I was proud of my people. And we worked together. We worked with our neighbors, our Inuit neighbors. We also worked with our friends who were non-Crees or non-natives. And everybody helped us out. And we proved to the world that we could stand up to something we believe in. We always believed in. Life in the bush, I think, was pretty close to being, I guess, those that have seen heaven already, that's what it was. You got all the freedom. It's the most beautiful place to be in. Nobody bothers you. Nobody talks to you about laws and bylaws and policy this and it's the place of freedom. There's peace there. This is where we always found, I guess, whatever we lost, who we lost throughout our lives. That was our place of mourning, and that's the land is what gave us peace. We always found it there, and it always offered it. And I always believe that river was meant to do that for our people, not just for us these days, but I think in the long run it was meant for everybody else, not just the Cree, because every human being in the world always seeks for peace and tranquility, and to be in a place where you can be closest to what heaven is like. That's what it was. That's what it offered, and they took that away from us. Over a few $1 billion, I guess, and a lot of megawatts. How can you trade something that beautiful for things that you can get elsewhere? And you don't have to dam rivers. You don't have to divert rivers anymore. It just doesn't make sense. It still doesn't. And there's a lot that needs to be told on that, on the Pendrath, the way it happened. To me, it's a pretty close case to being treason. That's as far as it can go. Just the way it happened. How it was a biased consultation. There was no opposition allowed. Those that spoke against it were slandered. They were tossed aside. We became, the guys that didn't want change. When all we wanted was a different type of deal. That Quebec go ahead and pay us what they owe us, that Canada pays us what they owe us, but leave the river out of it. The Rupert's River didn't have to be part of the deal. There shouldn't have been a compromise that size. And it's too bad. And the only happy time we had was when we moved back to our trap lines in the fall and through the winters, in the spring and most of the summertime. Those were happy times. And the best times were, like I said, on the Rupert's River. This is why the diversion of that river impacted us again. It's a different kind of experience now. The river has just been, the doors to that river were just closed recently, and so whatever traumas we've lived through since contact, I guess, another one has been added. This is where our ancestors traveled, and we have a lot of history with that river. And now that's going to change. So it's one trauma after the other, I guess. And I don't know how much more we can take, but I hope this is the last one that we have to face, that type anyway. We will be impacted by it for a very long time. For as long as the river doesn't flow freely as it used to. It's a sad case. Development that takes care of the territory, the land, the river, makes sure everything stays the same all the way through, even at the end. And whatever you take out, like you make sure you put back the way it was. Just if that type of development happens in our territory, it's possible that all of us can benefit from it. Right? As long as you don't poison the rivers, poison the fish, destroy the land. As long as you don't do any of those things. How you do it, you have to be innovative. There's natural resource development that can happen to help the province's economy, to help other people survive in this country or in this world. Like everybody needs jobs, but we got to find a way to do things better, much safer. It's not about being Cree anymore or being non-Cree or Inuit or whatever. It's becoming an issue, a human issue. It's not just about our own people anymore. We all have to survive on this planet, and we got to find new ways to do it. We have to find the best methods possible and teach each other how things should be done to make sure that we don't continue destroying what God gave all of us, a planet to live in. So I think this is the only planet we got, to this point anyway. So we can't take any chances. And that's the best home we can get, we'll ever get.